Welcome to the Art New Wave Studios. My name is John Creighton Peterson, mixed media fusion artist, and today I'm here to show you how to create your own Funky Fiber Journal. The Funky Fiber Journal is quick and easy to make and is adaptable to almost any size imaginable. Soon you'll be finding yourself making albums, journals, and keepsake books for everyone for any occasion. Before we get started, I just wanted to show you really quick the basic supplies you're going to need for creating your Funky Fiber Journal. So first you're going to need your pages for the inside. And all this is 8.5 by 11 paper folded in half. And then I also have 2 pieces of bookboard. And the little trick to cutting your bookboard to match your pages, because you can adapt this book for any size pages you're making, is if you start out with your pages, this page folded in half is going to be 8.5 long, and it's going to be 5.5 inches wide. So whenever you cut your bookboard, you just cut it a 1/4 inch longer for your height, and then the same width as your pages. Which means this is an 8.5 by 11 page folded in half. So my bookboard will be cut to 8 3/4, which is a 1/4 inch longer, and then 5.5 inches wide, which is the same width as my pages. I have my 8.5 by 11 pages, and for this sample book, I'm using 12 pages in total. I have my 2 pieces of bookboard. I have a spine piece that I generally cut them about 1 inch wide, and then it's 8 3/4 long. I have some cover papers I'm going to be using today. These are from the Authentique Explore paper collection. That'd be a cool travel theme. I'm going to be using Tear It tape from Imagine Crafts. This is a great double stick adhesive tape. I also have my bone folder, and then I also have, this is DMC embroidery floss, so you can use this yarn, anything that you have for doing your bookbinding. So these are the papers I've selected for my book. I'm going to use this one for my front cover, just because I like the print. So I'm going to set this one aside for a moment. So since this is going to be my back cover, I'm going to flip this paper over, because I'm now going to put my bookboard pieces onto this paper. First, I'm going to start with my spine piece, and I'm just going to line this up flush with the edge of the paper. And notice that I'm putting it onto the left edge of my paper. Then I'm going to place my book cover, which is going to be for the back cover, and I'm going to place this right next to it. And notice that I'm leaving a gap. This is about 1/4 inch. If you need a measurement besides pulling out a ruler, you can use the width of your scissors, and that's an easy way to gauge what your width is going to be. Before I apply my front cover, I need to add a little bit of adhesive onto my spine piece, because the cover paper is going to overlap this. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to fold over, just like this, my spine piece, because that way I have a little marker of where I need to put my adhesive down. So now I can just take my Tear It tape, and I'm just going to go right down, and I'm going to put 3 good strips. And make sure I get one right here on this edge really well. And now I'm going to peel up the paper backing and get this ready for the other piece of paper for the front cover. So this is the paper that I want to use for my front cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over so it's face down. And then I'm going to take my back cover, and this is my sticky side here at the spine piece, and I'm going to line this up. Notice how I'm just putting this right on the edge like this. And then I'm going to just fold this over. What this is going to do is this is going to bring the front cover paper to cover the spine. So that way it just has a cleaner finish on there. Now I'm going to take my other book cover, which will be the front. And again, I'm going to just put that 1/4 inch of a gap right here between my spine pieces. And I'm going to adhere that down. Next, I'm going to trim off my paper around here, and I'm going to leave about 1 inch all the way around, just so there's not any extra gaps when I'm folding it over. Now I'm going to miter my book corners, which means I'm going to cut at a 45-degree angle all the corners of my book. One important thing to remember is don't ever cut all the way up to the edge of the corner of your book. You always want to leave, again, that nice 1/4 inch away distance from the corner, because if you cut all the way to the edge, you're going to have naked corners and they're going to show through. So that's why you always want to save the corners of your paper when you're trimming. And notice I'm just eyeballing this while I'm cutting. It doesn't have to be precise because, again, these are going to get folded over. Excellent. So there are my corners off. Before I put my adhesive on for folding over my cover papers, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pre-fold my cardstock over the book board. You can also use a bone folder if you'd like, and just go along the edge to kind of get these started, if that makes it easier for you for folding. The trick to this, you just want to ensure that you're getting flush right up against the edge of that book board. It will make your life easier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add adhesive onto the edge of my cardstock all the way around. And then I'm also going to add a piece along the edge of the book board. This way I have adhesive holding right along the edge of the book covers, which is the most important, and then also around the edge just to secure this down. It's time to fold over our cover papers onto our book board now. So I like to start with the long edges. Because we already pre-scored this, it's going to fold over nice and easy. And when I fold this over, I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to massage it right down into that gap. That's going to do a couple of things. First, it's going to secure and strengthen up the cover paper in this gap, because now I have the original paper plus what I just folded over to strengthen it up. And I'm going to repeat that over here on the other side. And the other thing it's going to do also is this will keep it from cracking out when you open and close the book quite a bit. So there we go. Those are all done there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over my side parts. One thing to notice, you can see there's this little extra piece of the paper right here. What I'm going to do is just nick that down with my finger before I fold that over. If you don't do that, what can happen is you can get little horns on your corners, which isn't attractive. Now we'll just do the other side real quick. Beautiful. And just to give you an idea, here's the front, the spine, and then the back cover. So now we're going to put our inside cover papers in. Since we're going with the travel theme book, I thought it would be fun to use this matte paper for my inner liner. So a little guideline for cutting your liner pages to make things simple, at least for one dimension, is the height of your paper for your inside liner is going to be the same as your page size. For this one, this is 8.5 high then, inches, just because that's the same height of my paper that I'm using. And the width, you basically want to measure across here so it comes up to about the edge of your book board piece on this side. The liner pages are going to overlap in the middle on the spine, and don't worry, because once you get your pages in here, you'll never see it anyways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the edge, and because I know I've got about a 1/4 inch of a gap all the way around, I'm just going to eyeball this around. And then notice I'm not sticking the paper down all the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of flatten the paper down flush onto the cover, and when I reach my gap between my book board piece of the cover and the spine, I'm going to use my bone folder and I'm going to massage down this cover paper with the adhesive on it right down into there really good. This is going to prevent the inner liner paper from ripping out once you start opening up and closing your book. So there's that, nicely massaged down in there, nice, good, and secure. And now I'm going to take my back liner paper, and again I'm going to eyeball that 1/4 inch all the way around. And I'm going to begin walking this down until I get to the gap. And then I'm just going to use the edge of my bone folder to massage that down in there nice and neat, and then fold that over. So there's that, and now I'm just going to close this and open it a couple of times. And you can see that we've got that nice clean finish on the inside. Now it's time to put our fibers onto the book so we can start adding the pages. The Funky Fiber book gets its name because we use fiber for holding in the pages of the book. As I mentioned earlier, today I'm using the DMC embroidery floss for doing this, but you can use any kind of fibers, as in funky fibers like yarns and threads. The trick is you just want to be able to pull it and make sure that it doesn't snap, because you are going to be putting some good tension on here. So what I've done is I'm going to be putting in 3 signatures today for this sample. So I've already cut my fiber to be the height of the book plus some extra on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the fibers through so you can see how much of extra I have on here. And this is so if I want to tie charms or that type of thing on here. And notice I'm doing this only in the spine part of the book. That's the important part, because if I pull this fiber over into the gap between the spine piece and the covers, for example, I'm going to tear that all out. With my fiber being in the spine part of the book, I'm now going to tie a surgeon's knot. And if you don't know what that is, think of tying your shoes, going under the threads once, just like so. So I'm going under the one thread, just like so. But before I pull this down, I'm actually going to go under it again. This is a great way to tie your shoes so they don't come apart either while you're wearing them. Now I'm going to pull this down super, super snug, and then I'm just going to do a square knot. So right over left, and then left over right. So when you're finished, you should have really good tension like a guitar string. Now I'm going to take my second piece of fiber. I'm going to scooch this one over a little bit. I'm going to take my second piece of fiber and I'm going to pull that through. And the fun thing about this book too, notice I'm using different colors of fiber on here. That's what I think is half the fun. So I'm going to tip this up so you can see it again. Open my cover so it doesn't go flying away. There we go. So now, just like tying your shoes, I'm going right under the left, and then I'm going to pass under that again, and now pull this down super, super snug. The other way you can tell if you have this snug enough on here is that you should be able to let go, and the knot should not fall out. So if it does fall out, you don't have your tension tight enough. Now it's time for the square knot. So I'm going right under left, pull down, and then left over the right, just like so. So there's number 2. And one more time for good measure, because everybody always wants me to show lots and lots of times. Here's the red that I'm going to use. Again, I'm just pulling this around the spine. My midpoint's down here at the bottom. So now I'm going right under the left, and then I'm going to repeat that, going under again. Now I'm going to pull that all down, snug as a bug. Now I'm doing right over the left, and left over the right. There are my 3 pieces of DMC floss with my little bit of tails, and now I'm going to show you how to add the pages into your book. It's time to get a little bit wowed and amazed. I've created 3 signatures of pages, and each signature block has 4 pages in here. They're all folded in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to my book. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole group or signature of pages, and see how I'm just tucking it underneath the fiber so it's right there in the fold score mark, and that's all I'm doing. Very simple, very easy. So now I'm going to take my next signature and I'm going to tuck this under the next fiber, slide those all in there. There's number 2, and now for the final one, open these up in the middle and tuck that right underneath there. And that, my friends, is how easy it is to create your own simple book that you can use for a journal or for a photo album. Thank you for watching this simple and easy video tutorial on how to make your own funky fiber book. And be sure to check out my other video tutorials and instructions at artnewwave.com.